Assalamu alaikum everyone. So today we are going to start the chemistry 0620 paper 2. It's a multiple choice question paper. It's February March 2025. Let's start with question number 1. The diagram show containers of a gas at the same temperature. All containers have the same size. Which container contains gas at the highest pressure? Okay. So if you see over here that they all have a same temperature, so the temperature is same, right? They have all have a same size, so it means volume is same. But they are asking you which one has the highest pressure. So if these two are same, so it means neither temperature nor volume is responsible for the pressure being highest. So it means it's the one that the number of molecules in the each one. For example, you will see in D there are 4 molecules, in C there are 3 molecules, in B there are 5 molecules, in A there are 6 molecules. So having a 6 molecule at the same temperature with the same size of the container, the molecules are actually going to be closer to each other. And as they are closer to each other, so they are going to collide with each other more frequently. In the same manner, they are going to collide with the walls of the gas uh, more frequently, right? Uh, it means that they are going to exert a pressure more. So it means A is the correct answer. So B, C, and D goes wrong. Okay. Now, MCQ number 2. A cooling curve for a substance is shown. Which statement is correct? Okay. So statement A, U and V, between U and V, the substance is condensing. If we see between U and V, the substance is, we are cooling the temperature. No, I don't think so, because see, we are getting the 3 drops. So it doesn't mean that it is condensing over here. It is something else might be, because the temperature is going down. So see, temperature is going down over here and temperature is going down over here. For example, if you assume it as a condensing, so this must be a freezing. And if this one is a freezing, then how can you explain this change? Besides, when the something turns solid, it doesn't change its state, right? So no, that this statement is wrong. Now, statement B, between V and W. Okay. Heat is being absorbed from the surrounding. So this can be a condensing. Let's assume this from V to W can be a condensing, and H2I can be a freezing. So if it is condensing, so it's losing the energy to the surrounding, not gaining the energy to the surrounding, because the temperature is falling down. So saying being absorbed makes the statement wrong. Statement C. Between W and X, the particles are closer together and randomly arranged. So yeah, that can be answered if this is an condensing. So it means over here we have a gas, and over here we have a liquid, and over here we have a solid, right? So if it's a liquid from W to X, so liquids, the particles are closer and they are randomly arranged. So C seems to be a correct answer. Between Y and Z, the substance is changing from liquid to solid. No, from Y, that freezing, that change already occurred from X to Y, and from Y to Z, It's only solid. There is no change in state. So D goes wrong and C is the correct answer. Is this clear to all of you? Now, question number 3. Simpler four gases are released in a room at the same time. The gases are carbon dioxide, hydrogen chloride, hydrogen sulfide, and dioxide. Which gas diffuses fastest? So if you recall, the fastest is the one having the lowest MR. So for carbon dioxide, if you calculate the MR, it's 12, 16, and 16 makes it 44. Then you have a hydrogen chloride. Hydrogen is 1. Chlorine is 35.5. So it is 36.5. So among these two, HCl is going to be the fastest, which makes A goes wrong. Now after HCl, we have H2S. In H2S, there are 2 hydrogen and 1 sulfur. Sulfur is 32. So 2 plus 32 makes it 34. So it is lower MR than the HCl. So HCl goes wrong, right? Then after H2S, we have NO2. Nitrogen has a AR of 14 and oxygen has a AR of 16 and 16. So 16 and 16, 32, 32 and 4 is 46. So it is also going to be the wrong because having the highest higher MR and it is actually highest among all of them. So the H2S is the one having the gas which has the lowest MR among these four. So it is going to be the fastest diffusing fast. Or now, 4. Sulfur atoms can form a negative ion, SN2 negative, that is also called sulfide ion with the IDE. 3 other atoms or ions are listed. Okay, we have an argon, we have a calcium, and we have oxide. How many of these atoms or ions have the same electronic configuration as sulfide? Okay, so if you go for a sulfide, it's S2 minus and it's 16. So it means now it has a 18 electrons, right? Because it's a 2 minus. 18 electron means 2, 8, 8, right? Then if I look for an argon, if I'm not sure, argon is 18. Let me check. Argon is 18, calcium is 20, and oxygen is 8. Okay. So argon is 18, calcium is 20, and oxygen is 2 minus with the 8. So argon has 18 electrons. So its electronic configuration is going to be 288. So it is the one which has the same electronic configuration as S2 negative. Then calcium, it's 20. It's the atom. So it has a 20 electrons. So it is going to be 2882. So it goes wrong. And oxide, 8 electrons in the oxygen atom. When it becomes oxide, it has a 10 electrons. So it is going to be 2, 8. That's it. So calcium and oxide ion doesn't have the same electronic configuration as S2 negative ion sulfide ion, but only argon. So B is the correct answer. A, C, and D goes wrong. And B is my correct answer. Okay. Now, the element T has a 2 isotopes, T12 and T14. Which statement about these isotopes is correct? Okay. They have a different chemical properties because they have a different number of neutrons. No, neutrons doesn't explain the chemical properties. So, and do remember isotopes has the same chemical properties. So A goes wrong. Yeah, they do have a same number of neutrons, but due to let's say different number of neutrons, it doesn't mean they have a different chemical properties. Their chemical properties are same because they have a same electronic configuration. They have the same chemical properties, yes, because they have the same number of outer shell electrons. Yeah, it seems correct. They have the same nucleon number. No, one has a 12 and the other has a 14. So no, it's not. The nucleon number is not same. They have the different positions in the periodic table because they have a different number of neutrons. No, we are not going to show the different positions of the isotopes, right? They all are represented by the one symbol. So, and instead of the nucleon number, we use the relative atomic mass of them to show. So D goes wrong. It means B is the correct answer. Is this clear to all of you? Now, MCQ number 6. Lithium is in group 1 of the periodic table. Nitrogen is in group 5 of the periodic table. Lithium reacts with nitrogen to form an ionic compound, lithium nitride, Li3N. Okay. What happens to the electrons when lithium atoms and nitrogen atoms form ion? So if you see, lithium is in group 1. So being a lithium, it's 3. So it has a 2 electrons and the 1 electron in its first shell. So when it reacts, it's a element of the first group. So it is going to lose that 1 electron, right? And its electronic configuration is now 2 only. Then we have a nitrogen. Its atomic number is 7. So its electronic configuration is 2, 5. So what it do? It needs 3 electrons to complete its octet. So it gains 3 electrons. And as a result, it will become 3 minus. So its electronic configuration is 2, 8. So we are seeing that each lithium atom loses 1 electron to form lithium ion. So that is the correct statement. Each lithium atom loses 1 electron to form a lithium ion. That is the correct statement. Each lithium atom gains Li negative, gains 1 electron. No, it doesn't gain. Each lithium atom gains 1 electron. No, it doesn't gain. So D, C, and D goes wrong. Each nitrogen atom gains 3 electrons to form nitride ion. That's what we have seen. Each nitrogen atom gains 5 electron. No, each nitrogen doesn't gain 5 electron. It has a 5 electrons in its valence shell and it is going to gain only 3 electrons. So B goes wrong as well. And we are left with option A. So A is the correct answer. Now, MCQ number 7. For which covalent compound does the dot and cross diagram correctly shows the outer shell electrons? Okay. So, for the first one, see, there are 3 electrons of hydrogen, not possible at all. So A goes wrong. For B, there are 7 electrons for hydrogen, which is again not possible. So B goes wrong. And for D, over here, if you see, it is also wrong because nitrogen has a 5 electrons in their valence shell and 2 electrons of nitrogen is missing. So D goes wrong. And we are left with option C only. So yeah, C is correct. Because you can see there are 5 electrons which are represented by dot R of nitrogen. And each hydrogen has 1 electron. So C is the correct answer. Okay. Now, 8. Which law identifies the positive and the negative particles present in a giant metallic lattice? Okay. So the positive particles, if you recall, anions, not at all. The positive particles are cations. And the negative particles, they are talking about the metallic lattice. So metallic lattice doesn't have anions. Metallic lattice has a delocalized electrons. So D is our correct answer. Is this clear to all of you?
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
MCQ number 9, which formula for the named compound is correct? Okay. So calcium oxide, calcium has a 2 positive charge and oxide has a 2 negative charge. So yeah, it is going to be CaO. It seems correct. Cobalt 2 chloride. So it's wrong because cobalt 2 means cobalt has a 2 positive and Cl has a negative 1. So when you make the formula, it will become CoCl2 and that is wrong. Sulfur dioxide. Sulfur dioxide is SO2. So C, this goes wrong. anhydrous copper 2 sulfate. So copper 2 sulfate, if you recall, copper is a 2 positive charge and sulfate is a 2 negative charge. So the copper sulfate is CuSO4, making this SO4 2 and Cu1 makes the D option wrong as well. So yes, our correct option is A. Now, question number 10. The equation for the reaction for magnesium with dilute sulfuric acid is shown. Okay. They have given you the MR of magnesium sulfate. Which mass of magnesium sulfate is formed when 12 gram of magnesium completely reacts with the dilute sulfuric acid? Okay, so it's easy. If you look for the AR of magnesium, you will find in the periodic table AR of magnesium is 24. Okay. Now if you see their ratio, what is their ratio? Their ratio is 1:1. They have given you the mass of magnesium and they are asking you or the required is the mass of magnesium sulfate, right? So you can do directly that magnesium, take the ratio of magnesium and magnesium sulfate. How many magnesium are used in the equation? One magnesium is used, 1 mole, so it means its mass is going to be 24. And how much magnesium sulfate is used? Again, 1 mole of magnesium sulfate is used. So the mass of 1 mole of magnesium sulfate is its MR, which is 123. So we got to know that 24 grams of magnesium is producing 120 grams of magnesium sulfate. So if I'm using 12 grams of magnesium, then X gram of magnesium sulfate would be produced. And if you calculate the value of X, I suppose it is going to be 12 into 120 over 24. So is it 60 grams? So 60 is C. So A, B, and D goes wrong. And C is our correct answer. Is this clear to all of you?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Now, question number 11. An organic compound Q contains carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen only. Q contains 40% carbon, 3% carbon, 6.7% hydrogen. What is the empirical formula of Q? Okay. So for first we have to calculate the mass of oxygen. So the mass of oxygen is 100 minus 40 minus 6.7. So can anyone tell me the answer, please? Is it
53.3.
53.3? Thank you. So 53.3. Now we have a carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Carbon is 40, hydrogen is 6.7, and oxygen is 53.3. We are going to divide these values with the AR. So for carbon divided by 12, for hydrogen divided by 1, for oxygen divided by 16. So 40 divided by 12. Yes.
3.33.
3.33.
33.
3.33. For hydrogen, it's 6.7. And for oxygen,
3.33.
again 3.33.
It's 3.33125. So
Oh, that's fine.
just
So yeah. So see, 3.33 has the smallest value. So we are going to divide all with 3.33. So it is going to be 1 for carbon, 2 for hydrogen, and 1 for oxygen. So it's CH2O, which is option B. So A, C, and D goes wrong. Is this clear?
Yes.
Any confusion so far? Okay. Now, question number 12. The value of the Avogadro's constant is 6.02 exponent 23. What does it mean? It means that it is the number of particles in 1 mole of a substance. What is the total number of atoms in 2 moles of ammonia gas? So, see, if you go work for the formula of ammonia, so ammonia is NH3. So, how many atoms does NH3 have? Yes. Yes, how many atoms NH3 has? It's very easy. There is a 1 atom of nitrogen and 3 atoms of hydrogen. So there are 4 atoms, right? And if there is a 2 mole, so 4 times 2 makes it 8 atoms. And there are 2 moles. So there is a 8 atoms in the 2 molecules. So 8 times 6.02 exponent 23. Because 1 molecule has 4 atoms, 2 molecules has 8 atoms. And if there are 2 moles, so it means there are 1 mole is always equal to 6.02 exponent 23. So if you multiply with this, 8 times 6 is 48. So is it
4.82 into 10 to the power 24.
okay? 4.82 10 raised to the power 24. So D, A, and B goes wrong, and C is our correct answer. Okay. Now, I hope it's clear to all of you. Question number 13. Three aqueous solutions, L, M, and N, are electrolyzed using inert electrode. L is concentrated hydrochloric acid, M is concentrated aqueous sodium chloride, N is dilute aqueous sodium chloride. Which solution produces a pale yellow-green gas at anode? So it means simply they are asking about the chlorine gas. So if it's a concentrated, so at anode, chlorine will form because of being concentrated. M is concentrated. So again, you are going to get chlorine at anode. It's a diluted one. So anode hydroxide ion oxidizes, forming the oxygen. So these two, not N. So if N is not there, so C and D goes wrong. It's L and M. P goes wrong as well because B says that just about L and L and M both are producing chlorine. So A is the correct answer. Is this clear?
Yes.
Okay. Now, question number 14. Dilute sulfuric acid is electrolyzed using inert electrodes. What are the ionic half equations for the reactions that take place at each electrode? Okay, we are using dilute sulfuric acid. So, for dilute sulfuric acid, we have a hydrogen ions and the sulfate ions from the sulfuric acid and hydrogen ion and hydroxide ions from the water. So, these are going to turn into hydrogen at cathode, right? And sulfate doesn't, but hydroxide turn into oxygen. So it means that the cathode, the positive ion, so it's a negative electrode and it's a positive electrode, right? So at a negative positive electrode, positive ion doesn't. So we have two equations. That is the correct equation if you recall, and that is the wrong equation for the hydroxide ion. Now we have already, so okay, so see, we are already excluded the three, so we are left with the only C option. So C is our correct answer. Now, MCQ number 15. Which statement about hydrogen oxygen fuel cells are correct? They convert chemical energy into electrical energy. Yes, they do. Because hydrogen and oxygen reacts and gives the energy, which energy is used to run the automobile, the car, or the spaceship. Second, hydrogen is reduced in the fuel cell. If you see, When the hydrogen comes, hydrogen turns into its ions losing the electron. So that is oxidation, right? That is not reduction. So reduced, wrong. Statement 2, wrong, which means A goes wrong, B goes wrong, D goes wrong, right? So if these three are wrong, so we are sure that we are left with only A. So 1 and 3 is correct. So for the exam point of view, you don't need to look for the option 3. You have to save time. You mark C and go for next question. Question number 16, the reaction pathway diagram for the reaction between P and Q to form R and S is shown. The letter represents the enthalpy changes for the reaction. Which letter represents the enthalpy change for this reaction? So if you see, for enthalpy change refers to delta H. And I have told you in the delta H, it's always from reactant. Yes, very good. From reactant to product. So if you see, A goes wrong because it's from the lowest point. B goes wrong because it's an activation energy. B goes wrong because so we are left with the C, and C is, if you see, it's starting from the reactant and moving towards the product. So C is our correct answer. Now MCQ number 17. The equation for the complete combustion of methane is shown. Okay, we got the equation. The table shows some bond energies. What is the enthalpy change for this reaction? Okay. So if you see, we have a carbon, hydrogen, CH4, reacting with the 2 moles of oxygen, turning into 1 mole of carbon dioxide and 2 moles of water, right? So we can easily see each bond that is on the product side is not at the reactant side, and each bond which is on the reactant side is not at the product side. So if you recall the enthalpy change expression, so enthalpy change is equals to bond breaking minus bond making, right? So if you see the bond breaking, there are 4 CH bonds which are broken, and its enthalpy change is 4 times 410. Can anyone tell me the value?
1640.
It is 1640, right? For then twice of oxygen, oxygen double bond. So twice of 805, which is equals to 1610, right?
Sir, 805 or
No,
805 or
sorry.
496?
Thank you. It's 496. 2 times 496. So it's
992.
992. If you add them, what is the value?
2632.
2632. So the enthalpy change is equals to 2632 minus. Okay, if you see over here, the bond formed is carbon oxygen twice, which is twice of 805, right? So twice of 805 is 1610. And 4 OH bonds, which is 4 times 460. Can anyone
460.
multiply these two?
1840.
1840. So you have to add these two, 1610 and 1840.
3450.
3450. We will just subtract these two values. 2632 minus 3450
Minus 818.
minus 818. So it makes A, C, and D goes wrong, and we are left with only B, which is the correct answer. Is this clear to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, MCQ number 18, which change is a physical change? Cracking an alkane. Alkane, when cracked it down, it forms a simple molecules, which are not physical change, which is a chemical change. Evaporating ethanol. Yes, it can be fermenting a glucose. So fermenting a glucose can produces ethanol. So again, it's a chemical change, a different new substances formed. Neutralizing an acid gives you salt and water. So chemical change. So only B is the physical change. Okay. Now, which statement explains why increasing the temperature in the reaction involving gases increases the rate of reaction? Okay. Which statement explains? One minute. Yeah, which statement explains why increasing the temperature in the reaction involved when gases increases the rate of reaction? It increases, okay. It increases the collision frequency between the gas particles. Yes, it does. Because when you increase the temperature, the particles start colliding more frequently, which leads to the increase in the rate. It lowers the activation energy, not at all. Catalyst only lowers the activation energy. So it means that C and D goes wrong because they have a 2 as correct option. It increases the kinetic energy of the gas particles. Yes, it do. So it means first is correct and third is correct. And B doesn't contain third. So it means B goes wrong as well. So we are left with only A. So A is our correct answer. Is this clear to all of you? Now, MCQ number 20. The equation for the reaction between ammonia and oxygen is shown. Okay, we have this equation, the enthalpy change is negative 909, which is indicating that it's an exothermic reaction, right? One minute, please, everyone. Yeah, mineral mole is equals to 1 mole is equals to mass of its. Just give me 1 minute, everyone. Okay. Now, yeah. So the reaction, the forward reaction is exothermic, right? So what we have identified that the forward reaction is exothermic and the backward reaction is going to be endothermic. Okay. Now what they are asking, which two changes to the reaction condition will both move the position of the equilibrium towards right? Okay. So if the forward reaction is exothermic, so decreasing the temperature does shift the equilibrium towards the exothermic side, and exothermic side is the right side. So C and D goes might be correct, but A and B goes wrong because increasing the temperature shifts the equilibrium towards the endothermic side, and endothermic is a backward reaction. So if we increase the temperature, equilibrium shifts towards the left, right? Towards the left. So C, B and D goes wrong. Now, if you see, this side has 10 moles of gases, and this side has 9 moles of gases. So pressure increase, if we increase the pressure, equilibrium shifts towards less moles of gases. And if we lower the pressure, equilibrium shifts towards more moles of gases, right? So increasing pressure shifts the equilibrium towards the left where there are 9 moles of gases which are lesser. So it makes C goes wrong. So D is the correct answer. Is this understandable to all of you? Now, MCQ number 21. Mercury 2 oxide HgO decomposes when heated. The equation is shown. Why is this reduction reaction? Okay. So if you work over here on the oxidation numbers quickly, the net charge is 0. So oxygen is -2 and Hg is +2. So Hg goes from +2 to 0 and oxygen goes from -2 to 0. So oxygen is being oxidized and Hg is being reduced. And it is reduction because you can see the Hg is bonded to oxygen. So Hg is losing oxygen. So it's a loss of oxygen as well, right? So the products weigh less than the reactants. Wrong. There are few reactants than the product. Completely wrong. There is a gain of oxygen. Gain of oxygen is a reduction. So C goes wrong. It means B is our correct answer. Okay. Now, MCQ number 22. Some information about two dilute acids is shown. Okay. So we have a nitric acid concentration of
Sir?
0.1 mole. Yes.
Can you explain 21 again?
Yeah. If you see, the Hg is bonded to oxygen, right? And the mercury loses the oxygen. There is a loss of oxygen, isn't it? And loss of
Yes.
oxygen is a reduction.
Okay.
We have talked about reduction in 3 ways. Loss of oxygen, gain of electron, and increase in oxidation number. If we observe any one of them, then it's a reduction, right?
Yes. Okay, I
So
get it.
if you see Hg is going from +2 to 0, so there is a gain of electron. Its oxidation number, no, in reduction oxidation number decreases, my bad, sorry. So its oxidation number is decreasing and it is losing the oxygen as well. So all three are there, but we have to look for which statement examiner is give us among the three which are correct. So they are talking in terms of oxygen. So there is a loss of oxygen, it's reduction, okay? Okay, now dilute nitric acid, and then we have they are dilute acid, dilute propanoic acid. Okay, so if you see the comparison, the concentration of propanoic acid is higher, but its pH is also higher. Okay, so if you recall, nitric acid is a strong acid and propanoic acid is a weak acid, right? So three statements about acids are listed. Nitric acid has a lower pH because it dissociates more than the propanoic acid. Yes, that's why, because when it dissociates more, it produces more hydrogen ion. And if you recall, the relation between the pH and the concentration of hydrogen ion is inverse. The greater the concentration of hydrogen ion, the lower the pH of the solution. So yeah, first statement is correct. Propanoic acid has a lower concentration of hydrogen ions than the nitric acid. Yes, the solution has a propanoic acid's concentration is high. But when it dissociates partially. So if it dissociates partially, then this makes that there are lesser hydrogen ions formed. So the statement 2 is correct as well. Is this clear to all of you? Number 3, propanoic acid has a higher pH because it has a higher concentration. No, higher pH doesn't make any sense of having higher concentration. So it makes B and D goes wrong because both has 3. C goes wrong because it talk about only 2 being correct. So A is the correct answer, which is saying that 1 and 2 both are correct. Is this clear to all of you?
Yes.
Okay. Now, MCQ number 23. Element E is a metal in group 1 of the periodic table and element G is a non-metal in group 7. Both of these elements form oxides. Which statement about their oxides is correct? Okay. So if you recall, group 1 is a metal. So it's a metallic oxide, right? And metallic oxide is going to be basic. It's a non-metal. So non-metal oxide is going to be acidic, right? So both oxides are acidic, wrong. Both oxides are basic, wrong. Oxide of E is acidic. No, we have decided that oxide of E is a group 1. So oxide of E is acidic. No, oxide of E is basic. That's what we have decided. And they are saying that oxide of E is acidic. So C goes wrong as well. So we are only left with the D option, that if you read, the oxide of G is acidic. Yes. And the oxide of E is basic. Yes. So D is the correct answer. Now, MCQ number 24. Lead to sulfate is an insoluble salt. Which method is suitable for obtaining pure lead to sulfate? Okay, so it's an insoluble salt, so we do the precipitation, right? So the precipitation method. And in precipitation method, if you recall, two aqueous solutions give you precipitate, right? So a mixed aqueous lead to nitrate, yes, because it's aqueous, and aqueous potassium sulfate. Okay, we will get the precipitates, right? Heat to evaporate. No, we are going to do the filtration then, because the precipitates are already insoluble. So heat to evaporate makes it wrong. Is this clear? Mix aqueous lead to nitrate and aqueous potassium sulfate. Filter. Collect the filtrate is no, because filtrate has another salt. Precipitates are there, so which tends to be, which are in the residue. So we wash the residue with the distilled water, right? So B goes wrong. Mix aqueous lead to nitrate and dilute sulfuric acid, filter, then wash and dry the residue. Yes, that is the correct thing. Titrate, no titration, because it's an insoluble salt. So for insoluble salt, we can't go for a titration. So C is the correct answer. I hope it's understandable to all of you. 25. The element oxygen and the sulfur are in the same group of the periodic table. Okay. The statement about oxygen and sulfur is not correct. Okay. So they both are in group 6. If you look at the group 6 or group, so we have first element oxygen, then we have a sulfur. Okay. They both are non-metals. Yes, it is correct. So if it's correct, then this is the wrong answer. They have a giant covalent structure. So sulfur is, no, they have a simple molecular structure. So its statement is wrong. So it means this is the correct answer. They have a 6 electrons in their outer shell. Yeah, both belongs to group 6. So this is the correct statement. So the answer is wrong. They react together to form acidic oxide. Yes, they do react together to form acidic oxide, which are SO2 and SO3 is also formed from these two, right? So D goes wrong. So we are only left with the option B. So B is the correct answer. Is this clear to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, MCQ number 26. Tennessine, TS, is at the bottom of the group 7 of the periodic table. What are the predicted properties of a tennessine at a room temperature? Okay. So if you recall group 7, if you find in the periodic table, it's fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, astatine, and then we have a TS. So if you recall, it's pale yellow, then pale green, right? It's red brown, right? Then we have a gray black solid, iodine. The above one is a liquid and the above two were the gases. Then it's a black solid, and so it's a black as well. So that makes sense. There is a trend that the color is from going from light to darker. So black solid, more dense than iodine. Yes, because down the group their density increases. That's the trend. That's what we have observing. So it seems to be correct. Black solid, more reactive than iodine. So more reactive than iodine is not because the down the group 7 the reactivity decreases. That's what we have studied. A colorless gas doesn't make any sense. It goes wrong. Colorless gas doesn't make any sense. Goes wrong. So we are left with only option A. So option A is the correct answer. Now let's move to the question number 27. An example of a sacrificial protection is fitting of a zinc blocks to the outside of the ship's steel hull. Okay. Which statement explain why zinc is used to protect the iron in the steel from rusting? Okay. So zinc is more reactive. So when it's connected to the steel hull, it readily it has a more ability or more capability to lose the electron more quickly as compared to the iron, right? So it does the zinc does that. Zinc is more reactive than iron, so it loses the electron more easily. So this statement perfectly looks correct. Let's see, zinc is less reactive, makes it wrong. So B is not answer. Zinc is less reactive. The statement is wrong, so D is not the answer. Zinc is more reactive than iron, so it gains. No, it doesn't gain. These are the metals. Metal doesn't gain. Metal loses the electron, and the more reactive one is going to lose the electron more readily. So A is the correct answer. Now, MCQ number 28. Which statement about the alloys is correct? Okay. So alloy are the mixture of the two or more metals with the non-metal. Actually, a metal with the metals, other metals and non-metals. So alloy is harder. Very good. Yeah, the alloys are harder than the pure metal. That is correct. Because they contain strong. No, they doesn't contain intermolecular forces because there is no molecule over there. So A goes wrong. Brass is an alloy containing mainly copper and tin. I think it's copper and zinc that you need to remember. So B goes wrong. So that is the memory testing over here as well. Okay. Different size atoms in alloy mean that the layers cannot easily slide over each other. This seems correct, and that's what we have studied. That makes the alloy more stronger, right? There are no alloys containing carbon because carbon, no, that's wrong. Steel has a carbon in it along with the iron. So C is our correct answer. I hope it's clear to all of you. Now, MCQ number 29. Separate pieces of aluminum foil and copper foil are heated in air. The copper foil reacts to give a black solid. The aluminum foil doesn't react. So we know that aluminum forms its the oxide layer, which is protective, which doesn't let the oxygen or a water enters and react with the metals which are in atoms which are inside. Which statement explain these observations? And copper, okay, reacts to form a black solid. Okay. Aluminum has an unreactive layer, but copper does not. Yes, it seems correct, right? That's what we have discussed, and that's what we have studied as well. Aluminum is below copper, not at all. Aluminum is above copper in the reactivity series. Aluminum is over here above zinc as well, and copper is over here somewhere below hydrogen. Copper reacts with moisture in the air, but aluminum does not. No, copper actually reacts with the not with the moisture. Moisture means reacting with the water. It doesn't react with the moisture, it reacts with the oxygen. Copper reacts with nitrogen. No, copper reacts with the oxygen. The black solid, if you remember, it's a copper oxide. So B, C, and D goes wrong, and A is our correct answer. Is this clear?
Yes.
Okay. Now MCQ number 30. Which rock gives the simple equation for the formation of carbon monoxide and for the reduction of iron 3 oxide in a blast furnace? Okay. Simple equation for the formation of carbon monoxide. So if you recall the formation of carbon monoxide, initially carbon dioxide is formed, and when the carbon dioxide reacts with more carbon coming downward and the carbon dioxide going upward in the blast furnace reacts to give you 2 moles of carbon monoxide. Okay. Then for iron 3 oxide, Fe2O3 reacts with the carbon monoxide forming iron and carbon dioxide. To balance this equation, you need to put 3 over here and 3 over here and 2 over here to see the balance equation is balanced. So if you see carbon dioxide is reacting with the carbon, these are in 2. So it means C, this and this makes wrong. So A and C goes wrong. So our correct answer is either B or D. Now, B is iron 2 oxide is there. So B goes wrong. So D is the correct answer. Is this clear to all of you? Now, MCQ number 31. A sample of river water contains a higher concentration of nitrates from fertilizer. Which statement about the river water are correct? Okay. So if they have a nitrate, so it's an impurity, right? So its boiling point. It has a boiling point of 100 degrees Celsius. No, the boiling point increases. That's what we have discussed, right? Okay. Its melting point is below 0 degrees Celsius. So yeah, the melting point lowers down. The melting point doesn't stay to be 0 degrees Celsius, right? Okay. It turns anhydrous copper to chloride from pink to blue. No, actually, there is no boiling melting point doesn't goes lower. That's wrong. That's wrong. First statement is wrong, which means A and B goes wrong. No, sorry, my bad. Yeah. The thing is that when the impurity is there, the boiling point elevates and the freezing point or the melting point depress. So yes, this is correct. So if it's correct, okay, yeah. So it means either C or D. It turns anhydrous cobalt to chloride from pink to blue, isn't it? It's blue to pink. So the third statement is wrong. So if the third statement is wrong, one moment. Yeah, if the third statement is wrong, so C goes wrong. It turns anhydrous copper to sulfate from white to blue. Yes, that is the correct. So the statement 2 and statement 4 are correct. So D is our correct answer. Okay. Now, MCQ number 32. Which statement about the treatment of domestic water supplies are correct? Okay. Number 1. The water undergoes sedimentation to remove dissolved. Sedimentation is used to remove undissolved solvents, right? Not the undissolved solids. If the solid is dissolved, then how could you remove by sedimentation, right? So statement 1 is wrong. And if statement 1 is wrong, then A and B goes wrong. The water is filtered to remove insoluble solids. Yes, or to remove the insoluble solids, we can do the filtration. So statement second is correct. And if you see, there is no second point, the statement in option D, so option D goes wrong. And it means option C is correct. Now let's analyze these. The water is treated with the carbon to improve the taste. Yes, because carbon passing through by carbon, if there is any taste or any bad smell, that has been absorbed by the carbon. The water is chlorinated to decrease the pH. Not at all. The carbon is chlorinated to kill the bacteria, right? So 2 and 3 are correct. So option C. Now, MCQ number 33. An experiment to find the percentage of oxygen in 150 centimeter cube of polluted air is shown. Okay. So there is an experiment where we had to find the percentage of oxygen and the volume of the air is 150 centimeter cube and it's a polluted air. Okay. The apparatus is left for 1 week. Okay. After this time, the volume of gas in the measuring cylinder is 122 centimeter cube. What is the percentage of oxygen to the nearest whole number in the polluted air? So if the leftover gas is 122 centimeter cube, so it means that the amount of oxygen is going to be 150 minus 122. So that is the volume which is decreased. So it means that is the amount of oxygen which has been, which is there and which has been used up. Is this clear? So we had a 28 centimeter cube of oxygen. So 28 divided by 150 multiplied by 100 will give me the percentage. So can anyone calculate it and tell me the correct answer, please?
18.6.
18.6. So if it's an 18.6, so it can be rounded off to 19. So 19 is A, B, C, and D goes wrong. And A is our correct answer. Is this clear? Now, MCQ number 34. Nitrogen monoxide and carbon monoxide both are removed from the exhaust gases of a car by a catalytic converter. Which statement describe how nitrogen monoxide and carbon monoxide are removed by the catalytic converter? So if you recall, Okay, so it's about oxidation and reduction. If you recall, when this reaction occurs, carbon monoxide and nitrogen monoxide reacts to form carbon dioxide and nitrogen. So if you see carbon gain the electron, so carbon monoxide is oxidized, right? Because there's a gain of electron, and nitrogen loses the electron, so it is being reduced, right? So nitrogen monoxide and carbon monoxide are both reduced, wrong. Nitrogen monoxide and carbon monoxide both oxidized, wrong. Nitrogen monoxide is oxidized, no. Nitrogen monoxide is reduced, so C goes wrong. Nitrogen monoxide is reduced, carbon monoxide is oxidized. That's what we have figured out. So D is the correct answer. Is this understandable?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, MCQ number 35, propane 1-all is oxidized by the acidified potassium magnate 7 in a similar way to the ethanol. Which compound is produced by the oxidation of propane 1-all when the acidified potassium magnate? Okay, so question. When ethanol is oxidized, what is formed? Can anyone remember? Ethanol oxidized to give you? Yes. Isn't it? When the alcohol is oxidized, it's oxidized to carboxylic acid and form ethanoic acid. So if there is a propane 1-all, so it is going to be oxidized to give you propanoic acid, and prop refers to 3 carbons. So, okay. So it's an alcohol, so A goes wrong. Again, alcohol, so B goes wrong. It's a carboxylic acid, but it's a C2. It's a ethanoic acid, so C goes wrong. 1, 2, 3, 3 carbons carboxylic acid. So D is the correct answer, because when propanol is a 3 carbon containing alcohol, when it is oxidized, it tends to form propanoic acid, which is a carboxylic acid having 3 carbons. Is this clear? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Now MCQ number 36, the structural formula of methyl propane is, okay. The equation represents the reaction of methyl propane with the chlorine. How many structural isomers with the molecular formula of C4H9Cl can be formed from this reaction? Okay, so first look at the formula of methyl propane. Methyl propane has a, if you see, it has a this structure. So see, this, and this, aren't all the 3 carbons are exactly the same? Yes.
Yes.
So if any one of the hydrogen from these 3 carbons are going to displace by chlorine, it will give you only one product. And the second product will be this, when this carbon is being substituted, the hydrogen on this carbon is being substituted. So the thing is that this one, and this one, these all 3 are the same thing exactly. So when the hydrogen is displaced to give product chlorine on any one of these, it gives you one product, and this is the second possibility. So we got the 2 structural isomers. So if the 2 structural isomers, so it's B, it means A, C, and D goes wrong, and B is the correct answer. Okay. Now, MCQ number 37. Which statement describes disadvantages of manufacturing of ethanol by fermentation? Okay. The process uses a renewable resource. So using a renewable resource as a raw material is not a disadvantage, it's an advantage, right? So statement 1 is wrong, and if statement 1 is wrong, then A and B goes wrong. The process produces impure ethanol. Yes, that is correct, and that can be a disadvantage, right? Because we are not getting the pure ethanol. The process requires a high temperature. No, that is wrong. Process doesn't require the higher temperature, because we just have to maintain the normal environment temperature, that is around 35 degrees Celsius, which is to for a optimum temperature for a enzyme to work effectively. So statement 3 goes wrong, which makes C wrong. So we are only left with D. The process is a slow. Yes, that process is a slow, and that is also a disadvantage. So our D option is the correct answer. I hope it's clear to all of you. Now, MCQ number 38. Nylon is made up in a polymerization reaction. Which row describes the type of polymerization and identifies other products of these reactions. So the type of nylon, if you recall, nylon
Condensation.
is, yeah, nylon is formed by, it's a polyamide. So it's formed by condensation. So A and B goes wrong because addition is not correct. Okay. And in condensation, there is not just not a polymer formed. Along with the polymer condensation, polymer water is formed as well. So C is the correct answer. Okay, so C is the correct answer because condensation polymer and we get the product along with the polymer, we get the water as a byproduct as well. Question number 39. Which ion forms a green precipitate with aqueous sodium hydroxide that dissolve in an excess of aqueous sodium hydroxide? So that is a purely memory-based question. You have to remember this. Calcium forms white precipitate, copper to positive forms blue precipitate. So these two are incorrect. Now, chromium and iron both forms green precipitate, but if you recall, the green, it will form green precipitate. Okay. And they stay insoluble in excess. So that makes D wrong. It also forms green precipitate, and these green precipitates dissolve to give you a colorless clear solution. So they dissolve in excess. So B is the correct answer. Is this clear?
Yes.
Now, the last MCQ. A mixture of soluble substances can be separated by a paper chromatography. Each substance can be identified using its RF value. Just give me a minute. Which formula shows the RF value is calculated? Okay.
B.
B. Distance traveled by a solvent. Okay. A goes wrong. Okay, very good. So the B is correct answer because solvent over here is always in the numerator. It's not in the denominator. The distance traveled by a substance divided by distance traveled by a solvent. Yes. So B is the correct answer. Over here, it's a minus and multiplication. So that makes C and D goes wrong. And so we are only left with option B, which is the correct one. So we are done with the February-March paper 2 of IGCSE 0620. It's all for today's class. Now, tomorrow we are going to start, inshallah, the next. And tomorrow we are going to do the O-level 5070 paper. Okay. So see you everyone tomorrow. Till then, take care. Goodbye and Allah Hafiz.